I'm Phil Lovett, and this is Bike Racing Without Mercy. Today I figured it helpful to show you a full day of eating which has contributed to a lower weight and retention of muscle mass. And then looking to the other side of the watts to kilograms equation, I looked to build a little bit of power in the gym and on the bike, including 5 minutes of torment repeated 5 times, courtesy of the Zwift GORBY training session. The suffering may become too harrowing to show in its entirety, forcing IGL to resort to a time-lapse sequence. Welcome to Bike Racing Without Mercy. Today's a work day, and I thought it'd be helpful to show a full day of eating, plus some of the training that I've been undertaking on a work day that's helped contribute to quite a lot of fat loss over the last 8 months. So first thing, protein shake. As always, the almond milk, coffee, a couple of scoops because we're going to have a quick gym session, followed by a bit of time on the bike, and a scoop of whey protein, low fat, low carb, about 20 grams of protein in there. Mix it all up. And of course, water. Then off to the gym. So moving into the gym for about 6:10, I decided to focus on a couple of compound lifts that work multiple upper body muscle groups at the same time. I started with chin-ups because these build strength through the back or the lats, the core and the biceps. And they're a great test of general fitness and are brilliant for building muscle, strength and stability. And as you've seen, I've been working hard to get my reps up, and I've also been helped by the gradual reduction in my body weight, and I went on to complete 3 sets of 12 reps. I've always had a pretty poor flat bench press, and it's not been helped by having long arms relative to my torso, which in turn means the bar has further to move for each rep. As well as working the chest muscles and the triceps, the flat bench is also great for working the core, the front delts and the upper back. And during the movement, my focus is first on getting a nice stable base by planting my feet firmly into the floor, getting lots of air into the torso and the core nice and tight, squeezing the bench with my upper back, and then initiating the movement with my chest muscles and giving them a good squeeze at the top. Now I started with 60 kilograms in total for 5 reps, and then built up to a lowly 1 rep max at 70 kilograms, and then had a back off set again at 60 kilograms for 7 reps. As you've seen, I like to pair exercises that work antagonistic or indeed opposing muscle groups. In this case, the chin-ups are emphasising the back and the biceps, and the flat bench press emphasising the chest and the triceps. And I believe that this approach ensures even development of strength and muscle, and over time prevents imbalance and also injury. Completed the compound exercises, I decided it was then time to finish the gym work with an isolation movement and a couple of sets of dumbbell bicep curls. Here, during the movement, again I'm focusing on keeping my core nice and tight and my back straight, and squeezing the bicep as hard as I can at the top of each movement. After the 2 sets, it was then on for a short but very intimidating bike training session. So I'm just back from the gym, and normally I would jump straight on the bike and continue with the workout without eating or drinking anything else other than water. And the reason I do that is to maintain a hormonal environment that's conducive to fat loss, i.e. high cortisol and adrenaline and low insulin. Because when you eat carbs before training, you produce insulin, and that blunts off the cortisol and adrenaline, and that in turn reduces the ability for the body to convert fat tissue into energy. However, today I'm undertaking a really intense session on the bike, or I'm experimenting with it anyway. It's called the McCarthy Special, and you'll see what that involves shortly. So I've decided to have a full fat Coca-Cola that's got about 140 calories in it, mainly comprising carbohydrates. It's got 35 grams of carbohydrates in the form of sugars. And the reason I'm quite happy to have that is I think I'll need it to fuel the workout, and because it's mainly sugars in the form of the carbohydrates, they're going to be very, very easy to digest, and they'll get into the bloodstream very quickly and convert into glycogen very fast, and therefore my ability to produce energy. It won't create any stress on the digestive system. I've just into my first set of the McCarthy Special. ERG mode is engaged in policing the required gearing and resistance to hit the target wattage, and the target wattage is intimidating. For 3 minutes I have to undertake 290 watts, then the next 3 minutes 325 watts, and then the next 3 minutes 360 watts. Then I get 9 minutes recovery. And this really is an experiment, because I really don't know if I have the endurance to sustain this. Let's see how I go. So just up to the 325 watt segment, in the first set of 3. It's about 4.9 watts a kilogram to 5 watts a kilogram. It's very, very hard, this. I can feel it already. I've got a man up. Just coming up to the 360 watt marker. Super hard. Over it. Two minutes to go. At 360. That is disgusting. I must confess as well, I had to have a full pause and stop for 30 to 40 seconds just now. It's really horrible. Dear me. Let's see if I can manage a second set. There's meant to be 3 sets. Oh. Just coming to the end of the recovery, 7 seconds away from the start of the 290 watts at 3 minutes. Set number 2, 16 kilometers. Coming up to 325. Focusing on the rhythm and the breathing. I hope. "24 seconds at 325. Well, that was casual. I'm really angry with myself. I don't know why I elected to get up out of the seat as we went into the final 3 minutes of the second set at 360. Well, I do actually. I thought it'd make life a little bit easier. But I don't know why I did it, because I'd established a nice rhythm. Yes, I was suffering, but I think I could have at least clung on for 1.5 to 2 minutes at the 360, and maybe we could have seen what would have happened thereafter. So I'm pretty angry at myself, and I'm going to reattempt the McCarthy special. But I need to have a rescue 20 minutes now, and so I'm going to go onto the Watt Bike Hub and train in and around the 290 watts mark, maybe with a few sprints thrown in, to kind of get the training benefit of the session. Let's see how we go. About 6 minutes in, maintaining a nice cadence, 95, good pedaling technique, 50-50, 67 average power efficiency, about 260 to 270 watts. Final minute, 300 odd watts. Very happy with that. As you'll see, the pedaling technique was good. So the training this morning didn't go according to plan, but that's life. However, overall, I do think I'd have got a pretty good benefit from it, because the strength training showed a bit of improvement in terms of the bench press, but also the amount of chin-ups I was able to complete, and it was undertaken on a low-fat, low-carb protein shake. So the hormones that convert fat tissue into energy were turned on. And as for the bike training, well, you can see I was pretty irritated with myself, but the McCarthy special is brutal. And the intensity is really good at, again, helping the body convert fat tissue into energy. So even though I didn't complete it, or even get close to complete it, I still burnt 440 odd calories. And that's quite handy, especially given that I'd had 150 calories through the Coca-Cola before the training session started. And for me, if I'm experimenting with something new or just having a bad day, it's always good to have a backup plan if things don't pan out. And that's where focusing on pedaling technique on Watt Bike's Hub is super useful for me personally. And I really enjoyed the final 20 minutes on the bike today, averaging a left-right balance of 50-50, a power efficiency transfer of 67, and overall I averaged 279 watts, and again burnt about 400 odd calories. And so I built a bit of endurance and burnt a bit more body fat, so super useful. So as always after training, it's time for a very quick protein shake, again low fat, low carb. Circa 20 grams of protein in this to deliver the amino acids to help repair the muscle tissue. Mixing it in with about 150 grams of organic blueberries, a little bit of almond milk, and then into the NutriBullet. So that's going to deliver the amino acids and the vitamin C to help repair the body and calm it down. And then today, to replenish the glycogen, I'm going to have a cup of oats, handful of raisins, and have a little scoop, like a half scoop of whey to give myself a tiny bit more protein, and add in the almond milk. That will fill me up and also replenish muscle glycogen. And if you look back at some of my other videos, you can see that I'm very consistent in both my pre-workout nutrition and my post-workout nutrition. And by being consistent, of course, I can make little changes depending on whether I want to increase weight or decrease weight. And the consistency is something, again, I'll keep referring to. Just back from coffee with somebody I know in market, and I substitute the coffee for a small bottle of coconut water, around about 50 calories, but great for rehydrating and adding in some electrolytes. Just time for a super quick lunch, and on the menu today is salmon, salad and veg. The salmon obviously provides both protein to help repair damaged muscle, but also it's a good source of omega-3 fat, which is very good for you. The veg fills you up, provides loads of different micronutrients and plenty of fibre. And then in terms of a treat and for some carbohydrates to replenish, muscle glycogen, 3 dark Belgian chocolate rice cakes from M&S. I'm just back from work and I'm not much of a chef and looking for something that's pretty convenient and is probably a little bit better than a ready meal. And of late, I've been eating a lot of these chunky breaded cod fillets. It's a great source of protein. The breadcrumbs are obviously a nice source of carbs and give it a good crunch. And so I just whack it in the oven for 25-26 minutes and maybe have a snack while I wait. So for a quick snack, I'm going to have a small portion of cashew nuts and dried fruit. I really like the cashew nuts because they're a good source of energy and they're rich in omega-3 fats, which are generally good for you and help create a nice hormonal environment, whilst the dried fruit is a good source of carbohydrates and also vitamin C. And what I would say is I'm pretty disciplined about portion size for both of these, especially with the nuts, which are quite dense in fat, because fat contains 9 calories per gram, which compares to 4 calories per gram for carbohydrates or protein. And so it's really easy to overeat nuts. And similarly, the dried fruit is quite high in sugars. They both taste good, they're both dense in calories, and it's really easy to overeat them. So I'm pretty careful on that front. Small portion is about, 12 to 14 cashew nuts, small handful, and again, even less in terms of the dry fruit. The fish is ready, time to get it out of the oven. And I'll have it with a few carrots, again, for convenience. I don't bother cooking them. I think they're better for you raw. And some coleslaw, not very much. I try and go for the low fat coleslaw. There's no point in adding unnecessary fats to your food. It kind of gives it a bit of moisture. And then for dessert, I'll have an apple. Nice vitamin C, good source of carbs. The idea here is that the veg and the fruit give you a great source of nutrients, slow digesting carbohydrates and fibre, and along with the protein that helps fill you up. But to the extent I am still hungry after all of that, and obviously the cashews and the dried fruit, I might eat a couple of rice cakes. I really like these Snacker Jacks. They're only 50 calories a cake, they're caramel flavoured, taste good, and it takes a little while to kind of munch through them and they're quite satisfying to eat. But also they're a really good clean source of carbohydrates to help fuel tomorrow's training session. And I should also add that if I fancy chocolate, I might have that instead of the Snacker Jack rice cakes. And if I do so, I'll typically go with a dark chocolate because that's my personal preference, the 85%. I also find with the dark chocolate that 4 to 6 chunks is more than enough. It satiates your appetite, whereas if you're going with the milk chocolate, sometimes you want a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And again, with chocolate, it's quite dense in calories and fat, so you have to watch your portion control.
For my last meal of the day, I like to eat at 10 p.m. just before I go to bed. I personally sleep better having eaten, and also through my bodybuilding days when cutting down to very low body fats, I found that this does nothing to hamper fat loss. And that's contrary to a lot of the misinformation you can find on the internet. Now, I like to have a slow digesting protein in order to help repair my muscles overnight. And for me, I have yogurt that contains 20 grams of casein protein that does exactly that. Now onto the yogurt, I chuck some oats because the carbs from the oats are slow digesting and are going to add to the muscle glycogen and help fuel Saturday's training. The oats also help calm down the body, ready for sleep. Similarly, I love Bayona bread because it's rough and has a high fibre content, and the carbs are going to help fuel tomorrow's training and and the fibre helps fill me up and is good for general health. Onto the bread I add natural peanut butter and some jam because I love peanut butter and jam. And this little regime also helps me avoid having to eat pre-training, so that all I have to have in the morning is my protein shake, water and some caffeine. "8 a.m. Saturday, I decided to work on my conventional deadlift. Now, I've previously been using the snatch grip deadlift with a wider grip on the bar because the wider grip and the fact that you have to set up lower has forced me to work harder on tensing my lats and pulling the bar in towards me, plus also getting my hips and glutes involved as early as possible in order to assist the movement. Now here, the narrower grip on a conventional deadlift means that I don't have to get down as low in the setup, plus it's a mechanically superior starting point for the lift, and it in turn enables me to shift more weight with good form, and this is good for building strength and power. I warmed up with 5 reps at each of 60, 70 and 80 kilograms, as you see here, and then moved on to complete 3 sets of 3 reps with 90 kilograms. And with the 90 kilogram efforts, you can see the importance of pushing through with the hips, especially as I fatigue and the bar speed slows on the 3rd rep. And having well and truly primed the nervous system with the 3 heavy sets at 90 kilograms, I then dropped the weight back down to 80 kilograms to complete a back off set of 10 reps. Now I filmed this back off set from the side in order to show the importance of keeping a straight back and also to demonstrate the hinge movement and the involvement of the hips once the bar is just above shin height. And you'll see that I stopped on a 10th rep because I sensed that my back was starting to lose a little bit of its shape, as is evident on the 10th rep. Having fatigued my back on the deadlift, I moved on to the front squat to complete 3 sets of 5 paused reps. Now my emphasis here was on keeping my back straight, my chest up and my elbows parallel to the ground, and also my knees out over my toes on the way up and on the way down. And the pause at the bottom makes the movement harder because it forces me to generate more power in order to ascend. And overall from this training session, I hope that the combination of lifting a heavier deadlift and trying to move quickly and powerfully on the squat will translate to greater power production on the bike. Welcome to Bike Racing Without Mercy. It's Saturday morning. I'm just back from my strength training in the gym where I focused on deadlift and front squat. And on the back of yesterday's epic fail for the McCarthy special, I'm going to take on the GORBY, which comprises 5 sets of 5 minutes at 330 watts with 5 minutes of slow recovery in between. I'm hoping it will complement the strength training session. And I'm certainly hoping for a better performance than yesterday. I'm feeling okay this morning. I'm just coming up to the start of the first set of 5 minutes at 330 watts. Going over the marker right now. ERG mode is engaged and it's happily releasing the required resistance. As always, it feels like a bit of a shock as the power steps up, but I'm hoping that I find my rhythm and breathing and settle down into it. I'll report back in a bit. Seconds to go in the first set at 3:30. As you can imagine, it's quite tough. Circa 5 watts a kilogram. That's a lot for me.
into recovery. Yeah, it's going to be a hard one. So my intent today is to build some endurance above threshold, i.e. in my VO2 max training zone. And 330 watts is just that. I'm about 45 seconds in to the second set of 330 watts. I'll report back in a bit. Final minute of the second set. Control the breathing. 40 seconds. Into recovery. Oh, that's hard. Eight seconds away from the third set of 330 watts. Heart rate's back down at 138. Over we go. Trying to focus on the pedaling technique and the breathing. A nice loose shoulders. I'll report back. $150 to go. $130. One minute or so. 50 seconds. And into recovery. Keep the energy on. That's hard. Slowly keep going. Ten seconds to the fourth set at 330 watts. And I'm absolutely shattered. Over we go. Trying to establish that nice rhythm. I'll report back. $230. 130. $58. $20. Pigeon and 300. Gee. Horrible. Five seconds from the fifth set at 3:30. Minutes 50. I just ran out of energy. So, another training session on the bike and another fail, but as you can see I'm pretty happy with that overall, because in Zwift's trainer settings I've manipulated up my FTP to 300 watts in order to have the intervals at 330 watts. And based on my real FTP, the intervals would have been about, I don't know, 315 to 320 watts. And at 5 watts a kilogram, that represents quite an improvement, because I got through 4 of the repetitions and 3 minutes 15 seconds into the 5th. And the last time I did the GORBY was back in middle of March, when the 5-minute intervals were 325 watts and I was weighing 69 kilograms, so it was about 4.7 watts a kilogram. So there is some progress over the last 3 months or so. And if you like your spin classes, well, give the GORBY a go, because it's a great spin session. But back to racing, I think the GORBY is also really good, obviously, at building endurance in the VO2 max training zone, but also mental resilience, because I found that when I got to about 90 seconds to 2 minutes into each interval,
I really wanted to kind of give up, but I found that when I got to that kind of final minute, I generally felt a bit better, and actually my heart rate slightly came down a bit. So I found that quite useful. And obviously in the final set, I did run out of steam, but I think that's because I was probably overreaching a little bit. And as I say, overall, I'm pretty happy with the result.
And to round off the day, I've just gone back into Wattbike's hub in order to have circa 10 minutes at a relatively high cadence, 90 to 95, focus a bit on pedaling technique, because I found yesterday, after the failed McCarthy special, that the 20 minutes I had on Wattbike's hub at 95 RPM with nice pedaling technique really helped the recovery process, and my legs felt pretty good today, both in the gym and then when I just undertook the Gorby session.
The intent of these frankly gratuitous shots at the end is to demonstrate the body composition that, in all honesty, I've accidentally achieved via consistent strength training, eating sensibly, and most importantly, gradually racking up the intensity, power and distance on Zwift while having a bit of fun. Now, it's a flattering morning light from the side, so I also turn to face the other way. And while I'm at this low weight of circa 66 kilograms, I'm going to be undertaking plenty of climbing races where power to weight is super important.